sometimes we have to exercise patience while we stay connected to our purpose. I would say stay connected to our purpose. And then when you know that this is what God has called you, or you have a particular gift, the second thing is you may have to be patient because other people have not yet caught up yet. And that is a source of loneliness for some people.
Welcome to the Spirit in Mind broadcast with your hosts, Bishop C. Guy Robinson and Dr. Jonathan Shepard, where we explore faith and mental health perspectives on current affairs. Let's get into today's discussion with the Spirit in Mind.
People are feeling lonely, Bishop. I mean, it's amazing. We have all these different devices that we can stay connected to. We have podcasts, we have FaceTime, we have watches. I mean, there's no reason why we are not connected. We get news on a consistent, almost too much news. And yet people just feel disconnected. They feel lonely and are lonely. And we want people to know that there's something that you can do about that. But we want to make sure in doing so that you have the information as to what those effects are if you don't do something about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, these are just critical distinctions to make. Being alone is not the synonymous automatically with being lonely, loneliness. And so two different things, very close in their etymology or in their sounds and their words and verbiage, but two profoundly different states of being when you really get into it. And it's important to make that distinction. That's why we talked about, Dr. Shepard just said it again, that, I know the age we live in, we have a lot of technological means, and there are advantages to that. And there are advances and things from which we benefit from this kind of thing. But there's a difference between exposure and connectivity. And that's what's so important. As we were saying, you could be in a group of people, you could have what venues call 5,000 friends and 5,000 followers or whatever the number is, have blue checks and all of that, but still not feel as if anyone is really connecting with what your experiences are. And so exposure and connection are not the same things. You can be highly exposed, but profoundly lacking connection with anyone understanding. But there's help and hope for all of this, but it's just important to know these distinctions. And to be honest, sometimes one of them is to maybe understand some of the reasons why. Why am I feeling alone? Because insight is beginning of the path towards healing. Insight is to say, why am I alone? Because it can happen for some reasons, aren't always bad. There is sometimes what is called in philosophical terms, the loneliness of purpose, which means that I have a particular assignment that God has given me, or a particular passion that I must fulfill. And maybe it is countercultural. It may be a revolutionary idea. It may eventually change the world. But right now, the way the world is, so you see something that others do not yet see. And I'm not talking about that in a delusional sense. I mean, in the sense of a vision. I have a vision. If that's the kind of thing that we would attribute to perhaps a Dr. Martin Luther King, had to certainly have moments when it felt lonely because the massive majority did not understand what I'm trying to do here and what we're trying to do. Certainly that is Jesus, who was certainly misunderstood. We certainly know that Jesus had this moment of Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, which is, my God, why have you forsaken me? In this profound sense of nobody really understands what I'm going through, and having to sit down. How many times did he have to continually sit down and show them? He says he went through the law and the prophets and showed them why it was necessary for the Messiah to suffer. But that idea was a stumbling block, as it says, and foolishness, as the scriptures say, to people who did not understand. So sometimes giftedness brings with it some moments of loneliness until the Father resurrects and opens the eyes of people. And so that's one of the things I'm going to put on the table even now. What can we do? Sometimes we have to exercise patience while we stay connected to our purpose. I would say stay connected to our purpose. And then when you know that this is what God has called you, or you have a particular gift, the second thing is you may have to be patient because other people have not yet caught up yet. And that is a source of loneliness for some people. Habakkuk says something interesting, and I know it has specific historical context, but it also has larger principles that are applicable here. It says, write the visions. First, it says, look, so you're seeing, stand on the bulwarks, stand and see what God wants you to see. Okay, so you saw it. Good or bad, you saw it. And then he says, write it down. Write down what you saw. Okay, that's the part you can do. This is kind of like acceptance and commitment approach here. So what can I do? I can write down and communicate what God has shown me.
Right.
Here's the part I can't do. That they may read it and run with it. I can do my part, but I can't control other people's behaviors. So while I'm waiting for them to read and run, it takes some patience because what they're reading and what their behaviors will be, I can only control my behaviors and my thought patterns, my coping strategies. I have to allow people time to process, and that can feel a little lonely. Dr. Shepherd will talk about some other parts of that.
Yeah, that's so key, Bishop. And I go back to the people who where I struggle with in regards to my practice. When people recognize that they are different, when they have a goal in mind that is contrary, contrary sounds like too strong of a word, but there's a different course than their other peers. Especially when I'm dealing with the college students who I work with and I manage, it can be quite lonely. And let me tell you, Bishop, like when they get lonely, that's when they start to feel that depression that we talked about, that increased anxiety. And literally, many of them have quit. I've had some people literally have anxiety attacks in the middle of a quad, in the middle of a campus, because the purpose for which they are there gets overwhelming. And yes, and which is why we're talking about this. Being in that state of loneliness, yes, you feel overwhelmed, and how you be able to sort through that and walk through that. I really felt that as I was talking with a few of my patients, and even as I'm describing this now, there may be somebody out there. You might be feeling overwhelmed. You might be feeling lonely. You might be that person that Bishop was talking about that people just haven't caught up yet, with where you're at. And Lord knows, I know about that, Bishop.
It's common. Think about that, and how many ways that can be. You're starting a business. And it may very well be a business that's going to blow up and flourish, but in its early stages, you have this concept and you're trying to sell it to other people, and many people may not understand it. Think about the rejections and the 99 no's you get, as the adage goes, before you get one yes. So it can happen in entrepreneurial context. It can happen in family context. A lot of times, from a family therapy approach, you may be the one Families have systems, they have structures, they have ways of operating. And this is a moment in which you're navigating between fitting into the existing family tradition and or individuating to do something different. And so the family business is not your particular passion. I've literally talked and helped people through this, and it's not disrespectful, but you're just being led in a different way. That is, if you will, changing a family tradition, not in dishonor, but just in individuation. And sometimes working through that requires some help, and sometimes that goes with feelings of loneliness because no one else in the family understands why you have to be taking this different route. And sometimes that can be misinterpreted, misunderstood. And so we have to work through those things. The point is that feeling lonely can have many contexts. And so a sense of divine purpose is important, a sense of patience that gives other people space and grace to catch up. Again, a sense of confidence in God's power. There's some stuff that only God can do. I'm going to finish, but Joshua 1 says something very powerful when God is helping Joshua to get ready for his new assignment. He says, this is what you need to do. Be strong and courageous. Again, acceptance and commitment. Accept the things you can't change and commit to the things you can. Commit to being strong and courageous, Joshua. This is what I want you to do. In fact, he says it multiple times. Only be strong and courageous. It's going to take courage and it's going to take grit to do this. He says, I will magnify you, God says, in the eyes of the people. That's the part you can't do. There's a moment of divine intervention that requires changing other people's perception. And that's the part God says, I'm going to do that. This is what I need you to do. And so being able to navigate between those and accepting that sometimes with leadership comes a measure of loneliness. And knowing how to navigate through that and through the meantime until it is shown and made clear that, what you were seeing had some validity and some healthiness to it. So I'm just saying that there are different reasons, and these are just a few of them we're talking about, why people feel lonely. But part of the coping mechanisms include having a sense of divine purpose, having patience with other people, having our own measure of persistence in the things that we feel are authentic and true to our holistic wellness. That's just 3 of them, and having somebody to talk to. That's key. You need somebody that you can talk to and have that give your perspective and get other insights, so that the parts that may need some tweaking that we don't see, other people can help us with, and that's what the helping professions are for. That's what Spirit and Mind is here for, to encourage you to pursue those things. Dr. Shepherd.
Yeah, as you were saying, Bishop, I'm really led to even share a little bit of my personal story. You think about being a Black man in the United States of America who is a psychiatrist, who was born and raised in a Pentecostal church. That in itself put me in a very unique box, and it was lonely. It was a very lonely place because in the upbringing, and please know, I love my upbringing, I treasure it, but I heard various stories and various things and statements that were against my profession. If they were against my profession, and I knew this is what I was called to do. I knew that this is what I was going to pursue. I had the courage to go after it, but Bishop, it felt lonely. I just be honest. It was a lonely trek. And I can remember even sometimes going to the barbershop and people cutting. This is before I had hair. I don't have no hair now. Yes, I really did have hair, just so y'all know that out there. and so I was at the barbershop, and I'll never forget the barber was like, man, when will you get out of school? It's just like, I mean, and that thing like really stuck with me. Like, man, like I have been in school a long time. And it's like, dude, like, come on, it's time to get on out. And I just, right then and there in that chair, I just felt lonely. I did, because I'm thinking about the other people I had graduated with out of high school, out of undergrad. Many of them were now being successful in their careers. They were going out and doing various things with their lives, whether they're getting married or whatnot. And I just felt alone. I did, and or lonely. And that was a scary point for me. But a decision had to be made. I like what you were saying, Bishop, because right then and there, I could have said, you know what, you're right. I'll just go ahead, quit it. This is not really for me. It's taking too long. Yeah, I thought it was what I was going to do, but nah, let me go back and think about it. But I did not do that. I stuck with it. There were a lot of hard times. There were a lot of times when I wanted to quit. There were times where people even told me I should quit. And yet I pursued it. And I'm thankful to God that I did not quit. Even in those days where I felt overwhelmed, it was lonely, had to cry at sometimes, didn't have always the money to be able to pay what I needed to pay for certain classes and whatnot. But God always provided, always made a way. And I thank you also, Bishop, for saying you had to find someone who is where you're going and find that person and link up with that. And I'm thankful for the mentors. I'm thankful for the peers, because I know we've talked about this. You always want to have somebody ahead of you. You want to have somebody who's right by you, and then you want to have somebody who's below you who you're pulling up. And so I'm thankful that I had people at each of those levels to get me to where I am today. And guess what? I still got some more. Even though I don't have no more hair, I still got some more to go. And I just hope that my story just right there encouraged somebody to move forward. Yeah.
Don't forget to follow us on social media. We're on Facebook at Spirit in Mind, and we're also on Instagram at Spirit in Mind Live. Join us next time for a new episode of Spirit in Mind.